Ellen Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. I talk a lot about SEO, but in various ways. It might be SEO testing, SEO stories, rants, new things. And today I'm going to address a topic that makes me both mad and sad, but not so bad that it can kill the belligerent optimist in me. I think we can do better. I will illustrate this with an article that was published on Valentine's Day in the Search Engine Journal displaying what happens when precision in relaying what was said doesn't fully convey what was meant. So, welcome to Confessions of an SEO, and thank you for coming back. This is Season 5, Episode 7. Now, whenever I read something that says Google reassures something, I must say I am delighted. I'm going to be delighted for quite a while. I've been watching the Ken Burns documentary on Teddy Roosevelt, and if you're like me and you know the name but not the man or what he really did, that documentary is a really great place to start. And not to trivialize the content of it, but I am totally consumed with this idea of finding what was his favorite rose, or rather I should say a growing rose bush. It's called yellow saffronia, like saffron. So it's a yellow rose, and by all accounts it's very fragrant, but apparently it's not easy to find. Okay, so getting back to the topic, if you haven't read the article that I'm talking about, it's written by Roger Monti, who is peripherally involved in the lorem ipsum lore of rhinoplasty plano, to give you some context. Now, the article's full title, is Google reassures that the hashtag anchor URLs in Google Search Console are okay. Bullshit. Okay, I'll tell you why. Unless you know my work, I have been a lone voice about the table of content links in content and the danger they can pose. And, taking some fair amount of heat from people like Glenn Gabe, who absolutely refused to consider table of contents could be possibly involved in any helpful content issues. Only now, there's a few more coming out publicly saying that they're seeing something also. But, it's been a while. Like last April, I published an analysis on this danger for sites using table of contents plugins, that the presence of these hashtag anchor links, their presence is not so helpful to the site itself. And over time, the helpful content classifier will tag these traditional hashtag anchors as separate URLs with identical content to the canonical. But, this is an oversight in the helpful content judgment that remains uncorrected to this day. And I suppose you can understand why I see how articles like the one I'm going to tell you about, they fall into a category for me that I call Fast Food SEO. And it is not without likelihood that a lot of the people reading that title would believe, based on the title alone, without reading the article, that John Mueller is saying any URL with a hashtag in it, including table of content anchor links, are okay. Now, thankfully, the article referenced the John Mueller Blue Sky post. I think they call those skeets as well. I hope we settle on a more fun name for those. But John himself, in his comment, in his post, he was addressing a very specific use of the hashtag in a URL that can show up in Search Console. So he was talking about what is essentially a specialized feature in Google's search engine that is created by Google themselves during the indexation phase. Now, you can see this when Google highlights specific search result content, and it only works on Chrome browser. So if you're not on a Chrome-based browser, you probably haven't seen it. So if you look at the URL, it's kind of a weird URL. It does start with a hashtag, and then it keeps going and includes in the URL, even the text that is highlighted by color on the search result. Now, some people might look at that and call that passage indexing. And I know that sounds reasonable, but when I looked it up, it appeared to be two different technologies. So passage indexing is how Google understands and ranks content sections within our content during the process of indexing. What John was talking about was something called text fragments. So it's how Google helps users find the specific content on a page, once they look for it. Now, Google can use both of these together, but essentially they're different technologies. So John was talking about text fragments. And let's hear what John says. I'm going to quote. Sometimes search uses anchors as in the links with hashtags. And they use that to link to a specific part of the page. You see that when you click on a link in the search results and it highlights a sentence called text fragments. Sometimes this is used to report in Search Console in your performance report. And that's where these are from. They're not indexed like that. Again, I'm continuing to quote John. I don't love that there's a mix of canonical and non-canonical URLs in the performance report. Some savvy SEOs appreciate being able to separate them out, though. It's not a sign of a problem. So now, this article that Roger Monti wrote, by not specifically addressing it in a technical enough approach to make this distinction, my concern is that articles like this might create now a whole new generation of SEOs and writers that just hit the field right now or right around Valentine's Day, and they're reading and they're trying to learn everything. And they're going to think, because of that title, and they don't have a lot of experience yet, they're going to think that John is talking about table of content anchor links. Critical thinking does require us to be more precise. I know. In last week's episode, I very vocally promote a usage of precise language so that we all know what we are talking about and sometimes what we're not talking about. John clearly was not talking about table of content links. And here's how I know. And I'm going to go all George Carlin on you with this. If you don't know who he is, look him up in YouTube and look for the baseball versus football rendition. All right, here we go. First, traditional anchor texts are part of the HTML specifications. Google's text fragment links are a newer, specialized feature. Traditional anchor text links are created by the web page author. Google's text fragment links are created by Google during indexing. Traditional anchor text links are used for internal page navigation. Text fragment links are used to highlight specific search result content. Traditional anchor text links work across all browsers. Google's text fragment links only work in Chromium-based browsers. Traditional anchor text links use a simple format, hashtag section name, which is usually like, one of the H2s or H3s. Text fragment links format is, hang on here, just hear me out, don't worry about you're missing anything. Hashtag, colon symbol, tilde symbol, colon symbol, text equals, and then whatever they wanted to highlight, all that text. And finally, traditional anchor text links are controlled by the website itself, and text fragment links are externally controlled by Google. In short, While they share the hashtag symbol in their structure, they are completely distinct from each other, and to call them both anchor URLs is inaccurate. That's why I'm a stickler for correct usage. There's so much about Google that is volatile and hard to know or understand beyond the ability to prove, because, we're not Google. We're not at the table. We're not inside of Google when decisions are being made. But when it's things like this, things being like articles like this, we can push back on, or in this case, research, or be aware of the confusion in the field about the use of hashtags in URLs and how and when they show up in Search Console. When that happens, I think an article such as this can have merit. In my opinion, the parroting back of what anybody, but especially Mueller, says in a social media post, who is clearly speaking about a specific usage of these hashtags. This is more of why I call it fast food approach to SEO journalism. It's not helping our community and kind of needs to be called out. And I guess I'm going to be the a-hole that does it here. Ultimately, did Roger say anything wrong? No, he did not. And neither is Roger the only one doing this. But did Roger add to the greater understanding for our community at a level of specificity? That's hard to say. Level of specificity of knowledge concerning the bigger picture. No, he did not do that either. And that's what's missing from pieces like this. And some across, like this news, they're like, oh, well, somebody said it, I'm just going to write about it. And they just repeat back what we can already read. At best, nothing will come out of these types of articles. And at worst, it's perpetuating surface knowledge of SEO without a deeper educational purpose. Yeah, I know this is a bit of a soapbox for me. And I guess, when I'm gone, I just want to leave the SEO community better than when I found it. The courage to write both stronger pieces and the courage of readers to stay engaged in them so that they can increase their own knowledge and confidence in what they can see with their own eyes and come to their own conclusions. It's like which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first? These articles that, frankly, are very light puff pieces, and those that clearly have more meat to them are going to be challenging to readers. But I think we need to push for that. I don't think we want to have a surface knowledge of SEO. We need to have a working knowledge and be able to push our own education forward. And it matters where we get our SEO knowledge from. All right, well, that's it for me this week. I want to mention Indexilla, which is my indexing platform, how to get content and backlinks indexed. It is so much within Google's terms of service. It is safe for every type of site. And you can find it at indexilla.io. If you need help with your site, you're not sure where to dig, contact my office. My specialty is forensic SEO. Does this mean I will find a silver bullet and bring you something you never thought of? Maybe, but the value is not in what I bring. It is my perspective. To stay on the cutting edge of the state of indexing, check out Crawl or No Crawl on Substack. This is where I share my indexation research on a very much close to day-by-day basis, so you know the state of Google's indexing system. Thank you for being a listener. I hope I can count on you coming back next week for more of these SEO conversations, observations, and a few testing stories. If you have any questions about today's topic, you can reach out and text your question to confessions at 512-222-3132. Thanks again, and until next week, I'll see you in the SERPs.